I didn't like how my bottom growth looked, but I assumed that I would like it better as it went on, because it would get bigger and then it would look like a real penis. I didn't like the way that my chest looked after surgery, but that was just because it's not healed yet. Once I don't have to do all this recovery stuff anymore and it just looks normal, I'll be happy. I was a very girly kid in a lot of ways. I was homeschooled all through elementary school and middle school. I loved being outside. I was just a really happy kid. I realized I liked girls when I was 12. I was worried that being gay was wrong, and I didn't really know very much about it. So I went on the internet and I found a lot of content explaining what gay means, what a lesbian is, what bisexual means, and with that, what transgender means. I was still pretty satisfied with my life at 12, so there was no reason to really latch onto it, but I started having mental health issues. It got worse when I started going to public school in 10th grade. I didn't identify as trans yet at this point, but the majority of the people in my friend group were trans, and I felt a little bit left out sometimes because I was the cis friend in the group. I started going by Violet instead of Cristina because I liked it better, I guess. I actually had one of my trans friends tell me that they thought it was weird that I was changing my name without identifying as trans. It was during that time that the COVID-19 pandemic hit. Lockdowns started right in the middle part of my junior year, and the online school was just the nail in the coffin. I got cut off from in-person contact with all of my friends, and I just had nothing to do except sit and ruminate on my thoughts and my anxiety and just kind of rot in my house. And I started watching a lot more trans content on YouTube and TikTok. I was depressed and self-harming. I didn't want to be alive. At a lot of times. It struck kind of a chord with me. I had been having anxiety around the size of my chest for a while at this point. I actually did buy a binder before I even identified as trans. There are a lot of guides, how to find your size, how often to wear it, so that it's safe. Eventually I got a job at a grocery store, and I would wear it to work. I only did a couple times, but it hurt really, really bad. But I didn't want to go without it because I was kind of psychologically dependent on it, and I was seeing myself appearing to have the body I wanted made it really painful to take it off. Because it hurt, I stopped wearing it, and I started wearing kind of a sports bra that I was hoping would, still make me look a little smaller, and the pain did not stop. I eventually had to quit my grocery store job because of the shoulder injury that was caused by binding. Now, I still can't lift heavy things. It sucks. I initially started talking about the fact that I was questioning my gender around August of 2020. And I flip-flopped back and forth a lot before coming out as non-binary agender in November of that year. Initially, I didn't want testosterone. I only wanted surgery. I thought that would help me reach my androgynous, genderless body goals. But old peer group that I hadn't had contact with for a while, had been on testosterone for a few months during the pandemic. And I was really jealous of how deep their voice had gotten. Maybe I do want testosterone, like maybe I do want to go down that route. I started actively pursuing getting testosterone in November 2021. I had heard online about Planned Parenthood as a provider which will just give you hormones if you want them and doesn't do any kind of gatekeeping. So I showed up at Planned Parenthood 3 weeks after I had turned 18. The appointment was definitely less than 30 minutes if we take out the waiting room time. I sat there for a few minutes waiting for the doctor to come in, and she actually wasn't a doctor, she was a nurse practitioner. I didn't know that at the time. She sat down with me and went over the informed consent. It was 3 pages long. There was alternatives listed. The alternatives were surgical masculinization and, quote, you could do nothing. So the options were testosterone, surgery, or nothing. And I didn't want to stay like that, like depressed and like not wanting to be alive. So I was prescribed testosterone the day of the appointment. She talked about some of the risks with me in a very kind of nonchalant way. A known risk of testosterone use is liver damage, potentially like liver tumors. I know that now. There was no discussion of that. There was a conversation about fertility. She went into a little spiel about how you can still get pregnant if you're taking testosterone. Immediately after that, she pivoted into testosterone may completely take away your ability to get pregnant. I said to her that it didn't matter because I didn't want to have biological kids. She didn't press the issue and still prescribed me testosterone. I did know that clitoral growth was a possibility. FTM communities online usually talk about it, they call it bottom growth. The way that people talk about it is that it's like your body is growing like a small penis, and that it like won't look like a clitoris anymore, it'll look like a penis. So it's actually a good thing. And I bought into that, I guess. I didn't fully get what it would look like. I didn't understand how the sensation would change. I was not as informed as I would like to have been, I guess. My parents didn't love the idea of me transitioning. I think they kind of felt like they didn't have that much say in what I did because, you know, as soon as I was 18, I could just walk into Planned Parenthood and get hormones. I had my grocery store job, which I was saving all of the money from to save up for surgery. And everywhere they looked online was telling them, if you don't affirm your kid, then you don't love them. Testosterone felt like you would imagine an antidepressant would feel in an ideal world. It was a massive placebo effect. I was experiencing these like changes that were making me look more like a man. My voice was getting deeper.
My name is Oren, and this is my voice one day on T.
My name is Oren, and this is my voice 4 months on T.
Like I was getting hairier, which I didn't love, but it made me look more like a guy, and that was my goal. The clitoral growth, again, I did not like, but I thought I don't like it now, but it's gonna get bigger. It's gonna start to look more like a real penis. Like maybe I'll like it then. It never got to that point. I don't think it does for anyone. Shortly before I started testosterone, I started seeing a newer therapist who was directly kind of affirming and encouraging me to go on testosterone and to get surgery. And I ended up finally having the money once I had been on testosterone for almost a year.
My name is Oren, and this is my voice 1 year on T.
The surgeon I went with was Dr. Jeffrey Rockmore in Albany, mostly because he was the cheapest option and the closest option, so I wouldn't have to stay overnight anywhere. He is mostly a plastic surgeon who does other kinds of procedures like boob jobs and facelifts. He has a whole section on his website for FTM surgeries. He also didn't require a letter of support from a therapist. He said that that was mostly for insurance purposes, and he only did out-of-pocket surgeries. I went in for a consultation in December of 2022. I had been on hormones for almost a year. I signed some forms. One of the forms was about the surgery itself, and it was a form explaining a gynecomastia surgery, which is surgery to correct male breast growth. I did not see my surgeon in between the consultation and the day of surgery, which was about a month and a half away in February. Eventually, Dr. Rockmore came in to talk to me before surgery. I had mentioned in the consultation that I was unsure what size I wanted my nipple grafts to be. Sorry. He told me that I could draw the size that I wanted the grafts to be on a tissue box that was just on the table next to me. He gave me a marker and he offered to show me his nipples for a size reference, which I declined. I did draw it. That was the last time I talked to him before he surgically removed my breasts. I woke up from surgery and I was vomiting every couple minutes, and they basically shooed me out of the hospital as quickly as they could. It was very painful and it was very gruesome, but there was a brief period of euphoria after getting the surgery. It was very similar to my perspective on some of the effects of testosterone in a way, where it was like, well, I'm not happy with this yet, but that's only because it's in the in-between stage. The night after my 6-week post-op appointment, I had a pretty bad anxiety attack where I was thinking like, oh my God, I'm not happy with this. I was having regret. And I tried to ignore it. The day after that, I could finally try on some of the clothes that I was waiting to wear after surgery. It went really badly. And then I tried on one of my old, like, feminine cut tank tops, and I just looked in the mirror and saw just how flat my chest was and how my rib cage stuck out now. It was really horrible. And I stopped at that point and again tried to kind of suppress it. I went out and I just broke down when I got home. I just felt so much regret, and I told my mom and I told my girlfriend. I felt horrible about everything, about my body, about my life, and the fact that everyone has been kind of playing along with this for years now, and I was wrong the whole time. The next day, my mom gave me one of her long sleeve dresses, and I wore that all day. I shaved my legs, which were so much hairier than they used to be because of the testosterone. I cried a lot that day, and the day after, and the day after. I would consider it to have been a mental breakdown. I don't use that phrase lightly. It was 6 weeks and 2 days after I had gotten surgery when I started detransitioning. As soon as my natural hormones kind of kicked back in, I really wanted to have biological children. The manifestation of that desire was very much stifled by the testosterone use, which made me really, really wish that I had gone off of testosterone for a little while before I went under the knife. I didn't think about breastfeeding before getting surgery. Nothing like this was discussed at my consultation. I went back to Planned Parenthood after stopping testosterone. I met with the same nurse practitioner who had prescribed me testosterone. I wanted to know what was gonna happen to my body. And she had no idea. She kept saying it's different for everyone, there's no way to know. That was kind of the moment I just realized, wow, this woman doesn't even know what she's talking about. I don't understand how my consent could have been informed if the person prescribing it to me doesn't even know what happens if I stop, let alone me knowing. My voice is not the same as it was. I hear myself laugh in old videos sometimes, and it just feels painful. I am very glad that I was not on testosterone long enough to start growing dark facial hair. But I have peach fuzz that grows in that I have to shave every week or two. I have sideburns that I cover up with my hair. I have body hair now in places I didn't before, like my stomach and the back of my hands. I'm still dealing with a lot of tightness in my chest, and I have to do oil massages multiple times a week. I have nerve pain that happens in my nipple grafts. It just happens randomly. My sex life is also impacted by just the fact that I don't have breasts. I feel like I'm missing out on a very fundamental part of a female sexual experience. And it is something that is at the forefront of my mind basically every time I do anything of that nature. Additionally, there's the aspect of the clitoral growth that also affects my sex life negatively. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but it feels worse than it used to. I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome at 17, which is classified under the DSM as autism spectrum disorder. I didn't understand why I was having so much more trouble with basic things than everyone else, and it made me feel really alone, and I needed something that would fix me. And trans identity really offered that. It offered a step-by-step guide to a better life, to feeling better about yourself. I'm 20 at this point. I'm working, trying to save money. I do want to go to college eventually. Once I'm in kind of a stable enough place mentally, I think it'll be good for me. I don't want this to happen to other young people like me. Young people with mental health problems who struggle to find their identity. I don't want them to be rushed down this path and to feel like this is the only choice that they have to live a good life, because it's not. And people don't tell you that in these kinds of spaces. I wish that I had gotten more pushback when I started identifying as trans and when I wanted to medicalize. And I wish I had gotten help for my mental health issues before it even got that bad that I was wanting to identify as trans. There's just so many places that I could have been helped. And I want that for other young people in my position.